What's going on, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to today's video where we're going to be talking about something that's a little near and dear to the old macro man, to the old man of the macros, David McGuire, the old MyFitnessPal. Let's jump right to it. Now, MyFitnessPal is an app that you can be used on your phone or your laptop or tablet, whatever electronic device you have, and it basically acts as a calorie counter, a recipe creator, a shopping store, if you will, but its main purpose is nothing more than basically a food diary to keep you within your caloric control. Now, MyFitnessPal has multiple functions. It goes through and tells people about their calories, how their calories are created and equated, as well as the macronutrient distributions, simple recipes, as well as how to basically track your exercise expenditure and water. Those two functions I don't really use because, quite frankly, I think we live in an era where people are tracking one too many things and one thing less would be more advantageous. But that is neither here nor there. So MyFitnessPal, we'll go right into it. We've got a walkthrough tutorial for you. And the purpose of this app is, as I was alluding to help people with their fitness needs. So when you hop onto the interface, you see that it's got recipes, and at the very top, it's got your calories. And you'll notice that it says the amount of days that I've logged in, as well as other people that I've added. You can refresh it consistently. And then you go to their main drop down, and we'll jump right into diary here. So this is for an off day for me. So my first meal at technically 2 o'clock. And basically I put it in as breakfast, but whatever. And then you can go forward and backwards to previous days. You can literally go back to probably a year ago if you really wanted to, and it tracks your fiber, your sugars, your saturated, polyunsaturated fats, cholesterol, trans fats, and as well as a macronutrient breakdown. So you notice that it shows highlighted blue the carbohydrates and the fats and the protein. Next, we'll go into the calories. So it shows where my daily calories are expended, as well as where my goals are put in terms of macros. So for today, 25% of my calories are for carbs. So you'll see that in the picture there, it's the smallest pie. And then going back to the diary page, it's got notes for just about everything. I don't really use that function, but it is a pretty comprehensive based area. So if you want to go premium, you do have to pay for it, but the actual app itself is free to use. Looking at the other options that it has, so it has your progress, your goals, challenges, which I've never used before, nutrition, recipes, meals, and foods. Again, never really used that before. Apps and devices that you can link to it. But under goals, that's kind of where we want to hang out for the majority of our time. So we've got our default goals, which is based on what it tells us to set in, based on their Carvonen method or caloric metric that they use. Nonetheless, you can adjust that as I've just done there based on what you're looking for in terms of calories and macros. But you'll notice that it won't save it unless you're at 100% total. So 50% of your diet is carbs. You need to have the other 50% of your macros coming from proteins and fat mixing together. Next, we'll go into how the app actually functions. So you'll see here that I'm typing in Greek yogurt. I eat Greek yogurt, and we've got multiple different Greek yogurts that I've already used before, and they have been stored. If, for example, you don't have a food, so here I've taken a new Greek yogurt, you can barcode scan it and then it will come up and be saved within. But you'll notice that it says that there's 175 grams. Typically you need to weigh that. In order to delete food, you would just hold it down, click delete. It's a pretty simplistic program in and of itself. At the same time, searching out for restaurant foods, it does have a wide array of foods in there. So we just type in McDonald's here and it gives you a wide list of McDonald's. Ironically, I haven't actually had any McDonald's food since I was in grade 12, which, oh geez, we're dating ourselves, about 10 years ago now. So for a Big Mac, for example, here, it gives you the calories, the macros, and if you click down further, it gives you the entire breakdown of fats and everything. And then you can also compare it to other areas where Big Macs have been cited. So for different countries, it could be a different rate of caloric intake, such as like UK, Canada, and USA. Now, the next thing we want to pay attention to is how it actually puts in your calories and macronutrients. So if you put in the target or your weight that you start at, as well as your target, so if you want to gain or lose weight, it will adjust based on that, as well as based on your level of activity and how much you want to gain or lose per week, either a pound to half a pound. And then based on that, it'll give you a certain amount of calories. So let's say, for example, here I'm 200 pounds and my goal is to be, we're gonna say 195 pounds. So lose a pound a week, I'm active, drops my calories to 2,610 based on what scientific literature has proven. Let's say my goal is to get up to 210 calories and I want to gain 0.5 of a pound per week. It's going to jump me up to 3,360 calories. Ironically, I'm already eating more than that, within the 180 range, so there is individual variances that this app cannot take into consideration, such as your neat calories, unless you want to pay for the premium, which I do not, so I just calculate and add to it as I'm going along. The next thing we need to pay attention to is how we're actually weighing or getting an accurate representation, rather, of the food itself. So it's all fine and dandy that you're barcode scanning your food and adding food, but if you're taking certain foods, such as a piece of fruit, one apple is not the same. So an apple that is the size of your fist is not going to be the same as an apple that's the size of 2 of your hands put together in terms of caloric expenditure. It's just common logic. So this is where weighing your food comes in very handy. At the same time, you want to make sure that you're weighing your food without like illogical metrics. So for example, you have a banana, you wouldn't eat the skin of a banana, or most people don't eat the skin of a banana. So you wouldn't weigh it with the skin of the banana on it. As well, if you're using something that's liquidy or it's going to make a mess, you wouldn't just weigh that right on it by itself, nor would you weigh the apparatus that you're using to hold it, such as a bowl, a plate, a spoon, or spoon and a cup, for example. So in the example I've used here, we've got some sour cherries from the previous video on sour cherry pre-workout left over. So you'll see that originally I just kind of poured it right on there and it made a mess everywhere. So logically you wouldn't want to do that. So put a bowl, tare it based on your actual weight scale. So scale it back to 0. Again, typically it's just pressing the power button again, or there'll be a clear button you can press, and then put it back on top for the actual food that you want, and then track that within. So the next thing that you need to pay attention to is how you're actually coming across your calories. Because if you're just setting up MyFitnessPal here with no understanding of the ability to lose or gain weight, you're kind of setting yourself up to just kind of spin your wheels and go nowhere. So if your goal is to gain weight, as the scale increases on this, like body weight scale, for instance, chances are you will have to increase your calories, and MyFitnessPal may not be able to keep up with that, especially if you're using the free version. So you might have to increase the calories yourself. Consequently, if you're trying to lose weight, it'll typically start people off at a lot lower than they really should be at. So for myself, the last time that I did a true cutting series, MyFitnessPal told me to start right at 2,800. I never got below 2,900, and that was on non-workout days. So it does have metrics that can be theoretically flawed, again, because it doesn't take into consideration your neat calories. So you need to take that into consideration when you're consuming food. So the next thing that we need to cover here is when it's a good idea to use this app. So for myself, I typically try to use it almost year round with breaks in between to just like allow myself to eat, such as during holidays, family, friends, birthdays, or those sort of equations where I can't really equate for the food. But typically, if you're serious about your goals and you want to gain or lose weight, it makes staying on top of a caloric deficit or caloric surplus exceptionally easy. So I would recommend it for those who are serious about gaining weight or losing it. But that is just my 2 cents. I find for myself, if I don't track, then typically I undereat. So for example, whenever I go away on vacation for a week or so, which isn't very frequently, but if I do, typically I come back and I'll have lost weight. And it's not from walking a ton more or exercising a ton more. It's because I haven't eaten as much. Not because the day didn't provide for it, but because I just didn't really want to. So tracking kind of keeps me honest and on the ball with the desire to eat more or eat less, depending on what my goals are. So I hope this video has been informative. I hope you guys have learned something from it. I know the tutorial was kind of quick, But it is a fairly simplistic app. It does pretty much walk you through it. All you really have to do is put in the time to read what it's asking you to do, and then pretty much everything is done for you, at least as a general starting point. For the average user who's just trying to hop on board, it pretty much does everything for you. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you found this video informative. Like, comment, subscribe, and as always, stay strong, ladies and gentlemen.